Hello, it's Crafty Carol here from Northern Ireland with another little project for you. And what we made at the Craft and Chat session, our in-person class yesterday, were some, I don't know what you call them, but basically they're reverse cards. So they're all the rage at the moment. I've seen quite a few around. These are two of the examples I made just with some retiring paper, or retired, I think it was celebration paper. And basically you're using both sides of a DSP to form a pattern, sort of reverse triangles pattern, I suppose, and then you can decorate it as you wish, really. So these are the two that I made for the class. I'm decorated inside that one, but I might add a bird later. We'll see. Just to use up some of the DSP, really. So I'm going to show you how to make them. They are so simple and yet they look so stunning. So I've got most of the pieces ready. So what you need an envelope, which I've already decorated. That's a retired stamp, but it just suited what I wanted for this. So an envelope. You need a card base, and it's the normal card base. You can make it either way. I think one of the bird cards I made long ways, doesn't really matter, but you need a card base, the usual one. This one is 21 by 14.8, scored at 10.5. If you want it vertically, you cut the length of an A4 sheet at 10.5 and fold it at 14.8, and that'll give you the vertical card. But whatever, you need a card base. 4 inches. It is, try and get this right, it is 8.5 inches by 5.25, I think it is. I'll write them all in the blog. All the inches measurements will be correct in the blog. It's something like that, scored at 4.25 inches anyway. But check the blog if you want the inch measurements. So we also want some layers, and we want a contrasting layer that contrasts with the DSP, and that layer is the normal 0.5 centimetre less, so this is 10 by 14.3 centimetres, and then you want your piece of DSP. Now when you're choosing your piece of DSP, you want to choose one that's got a contrasting reverse that matches the pattern up the front. So I'm using this one because I quite like the rabbits, and then I've got a sort of nice pattern on the back. So that is, again, 0.5 centimetre less. So that is 9.5 centimetres by 13.8 centimetres. And I'll put all the inch measurements, as I say, in the blog. So if you want it in inches, please go to my blog at craftycarolscards.co.uk, and all the inch measurements will be there. You also need a piece for the inside, and that is the same 9.5 by 13.8. I've already decorated this again with the it's a retired stamp. It's actually the same stamp set as with the envelope, but it matched the rabbits, so I quite liked it. And then we want a sentiment, and I want to show you a different way to do a sentiment. Obviously you can die cut if you've got some dies, or you can just simply cut it out as a rectangle, or you can slant the ends or banner the ends. I've done all of those things, but I want to show you a slightly different way of doing it today. So I've stamped the sentiment, and I'll show you how to do it in a minute. So how to put the card together. It is a really simple card, and it looks so complicated, but it really isn't. So you just need a trimmer, and you need a couple of bits of low-tack tape or something like that. So you're going to start off by cutting from one corner to the diagonal opposite corner. Now, I've told you this before, but as a little cheat, in case your blade is not as sharp as you wish it to be, put it in the centre of the DSP. Make sure that the points of your DSP are, I always knock the corner of this mat off, honestly. I really must glue it on or something. Make sure the corners are in the track of the trimmer, and then you can simply cut up and down, and that cuts the DSP in half beautifully. So we've cut it in half that way, and just to make sure that it stays completely exact, I'm going to put those bits back together, make sure they're even, and just use a little bit of low-tack tape. If I can reach my I've got some odd little bits here that I've used on dies, just enough just to, can't reach this one, there we go. Just enough to hold those corners together while we do exactly the same thing on the opposite corners. So again, the opposite corner, top and bottom, trim a blade in the middle, make sure that the corners are exactly in your trim guide, your cutting mat guide there. where it actually cuts. And there we have our 4 bits of DSP all cut. How simple is that? So I'm taking off my bits of of the low-tack tape, move that trimmer out of the way, and then we can decide which ones we want. We've got nice bunnies there. We've also got quite nice bunnies top and bottom. I think I might leave the top and bottom of the bunnies today, and we'll turn over and have the pattern this way, I think. Now, sorry, excuse my cough. Still got the remnants of a cold. Whenever you cut with a trimmer, you'll find that one edge is the top cut is always nice and smooth. There's a little bit of an edge on the bottom. So when you turn these pieces over, you've just got a little cut edge showing. To get rid of that, simply use a bone folder and just run it up those cut edges. And that will immediately flatten those cut edges back down, so it's not obvious that you've cut those on the reverse side. Little tip there, if you ever do that, like cutting a piece when you have to use the emergency reverse side of any piece you've cut, then always do that. So you'll see it on any cut bit. I hope you can perhaps see it on that. It's just upwards. So I'm using this side, it's no problem. But if I wanted to use this side, needed to use it, perhaps if I'd made a mistake, then I can just use a bone folder to squash those cuts and you don't end up with that slightly raised edge. So here are my pieces and I just need to stick them on here. This is such a simple card, really. So we need to make sure they're done in order so we don't get the glue on the wrong side. So I'm going to start with my top piece. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here, just a little bit of Tombow. And I'm using Tombow because I do want a little bit of wiggle room for this particular card because I want to be able to move it around. So this is my top piece. So I'm going to put that in the center and you'll see I need to leave a little bit of room either side towards the corner. So I've left a little tiny bit each side the same and a little edge around the top. Then I'm going to take the bottom piece and do the same. So put my Tombow on and then place it so that it's in the center with just the same distance between the 2 bits there. The points should join if I've got this right. There we go, yes. So you'll see there's a gap in the center, which there should be, and a little gap either side. Use the Tombow so you've got that wiggle room, and then we're going to put the side pieces in. So again, putting Tombow on the back here. Doesn't matter which side is which, but let's not worry. So again, putting it so that you've got the gap. And you also want to make sure that the gap between each of these pieces and here, as well as the edge, is the same. And they should all join towards a point in the center, like that. So we'll simply do the other one. And again, making sure I've got my gaps right, using the Tombow to give me that little bit of wiggle room to make sure it's right. There we go. So I've got my gaps between each of the pieces and round the edge. As close as I can get them, doing this quite quickly, the same. So then very simply, we're going to stick that to the front of the card and I'm going to stick my inside piece inside the card. And basically that is the card made. How simple and quick is this? So I've seen a lot of them out at the moment on Instagram and places. So they're obviously quite in at the moment, these sorts of card, but it's a lovely, lovely way to use up some of your DSP if you've got some lying around, especially the retired stuff. Perhaps you need to get rid of some. It's amazing how much DSP you can have and you still have loads to do cards with. That's why I like making boxes and 3D things out of DSP, because it's a good way to use some of it up. Because DSP goes a long, long way, I have to say. Okay, so this is my inside that I'd already decorated. You can put anything you like inside, obviously. I'm not putting any sort of greeting inside because this is going to be a thank you card. My thank you so much. So I don't want to write anything inside because I'll write my message in there when I'm sending it as a card. So I wanted to show you how I'm going to make it slightly different to do my sentiment. So you can see with this sentiment, I've got the thank you and then so much is sort of straight. So I'm going to cut it so that it's straight and I'm going to use my trimmer. I can see through the trimmer, make sure it's level with that. going to cut it straight along the so much bit, like that. And then I'm going to use my scissors to just go round the sort of outside of it. So I'm just leaving about the same gap all the way round. And just very quickly, you can obviously take a bit more time than I'm taking over this. And come out round my cave, thank you. Across the top of those letters. You can go in and out a little bit more around those letters if you wanted. I'm just doing this quickly to show you. But it's just a slightly different way of doing your sentiment, and I think it actually really suits this sort of card. I'll just curve it round at the bottom. I don't like little sharp edges. There we go. So that, thank you so much. Now I can stick that on the card, but I want to add a little bit more to the front because I think it's a little bit bland as it is. I'm obviously going to put some bling on because bling is always good, but I also want to add a little bit of twine. So I'm going to put a little bit of tear and tape in the centre. Take that off. And then I'm just going to put a little sort of twiddle of time of twine. So I'm going to use the white twine from the Baker's Twine Essential Pack. Put my first bit, stick it onto my tape there, and then I can unwind some of that. Now it will want to curve its own way, so you want to sort of just persuade it to go where you want it to go. Stick it down in the middle. Then we're going to have another little curl back here. I'm going to do a double layer here. Twist that back around there and across, just sticking it in the centre each time. See, that one's twisted there, but it's okay. And a final one back here. And then I can just trim that off. So there's my sort of twist of twine. You can either do this separately and then stick it on when you've actually made it separately. It's up to you how you do it, but oh, that's twisting a way I don't want, so we'll just persuade it to go where I do want it to go. There we go. And then I'm going to put a couple of little dimensionals on the back of my sentiment. A couple will hold this nicely. And that will stick across the middle, just like that. So there's my card. I'm going to add a couple of little gems just to finish it off, because you can, if I can find my gems, there we go. You can never have enough bling, I have to say, on cards, in my view. I've used glitter for ages. I'm just thinking, my friend always laughs at me because she says I make a big mess with glitter, which is absolutely true, I do. But yeah, I might have to use some glitter on some cards soon. I haven't used any for ages. But I'm just going to put a couple of gems on here just to... here, I think. There. So, there we have the card with its envelope. And here's another one I've made with the same paper. This time I had the rabbits at the side. So I just think they're rather nice cards to make. They're just fun. Just make that go where I want it to. There we go. Oop, pull that again. Never mind, I'll fiddle with it later. Excuse me. Yeah, so I hope you have a go at this really simple card. This one, as you can see, you can get different effects just by using different backgrounds. This one I've put on a Night of Navy background. It's a boho blue base, I should have said that. This one I've used a balmy blue base, I think it is, this one, because it matches the flowers on the paper. And I've used a white background, and you can see the difference. You can make cards look so different just by choosing different papers and different backgrounds. But I hope you can have a go at this really easy type of card. As I say, I don't really know what to call it, but they're fun sort of reverse DSP triangle cards. I don't know what they're called. But yeah, I hope you have a go at this one because they're great fun to make. Thank you for joining me today. If you want all the measurements, and including the proper inch measurements, they will be on my website at craftycarolscards.co.uk, where you can also sign up for my emails to get all my news and know when I'm live and when I'm doing things. And also, please, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do. And I will see you again soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.